Budget builds are back, you guys. Let's do one today with an RTX 3050 in the Metallicgear Neo V2 case. This is gonna be awesome. Stick around. Oh, hey, how you doing? TechDweeb here. Thanks for clicking on the video today. It's been quite a strange past few years. I mean, not just because of things, but for PC enthusiasts, we've had to deal with some weird stuff. With the shortages and scalpers and miners, lots of PC parts have had some serious supply issues, and budget builds with new PC parts are basically impossible for a long time. That's changing though, finally. GPU prices are coming down and things are sort of starting to return to normal, at least where I live, and in lots of parts of the world, and I expect that things will improve everywhere really soon. That's my prediction. Don't burn me at the stake if it turns out that I'm wrong, okay? So yeah, budget builds are back, finally. And I'm super excited because I love building PCs. And I can build 2 budget PCs for the price of one giant monster PC. And that's what we're going to be doing today. This is officially the first real budget build that I've done since the dawn of the GPU scalping-mining-cataclysm that's gripped us for the last 2 years. This is a system that you can build today, using new parts that you can buy, and it's hopefully going to offer really solid performance for the price. I'll go over all the parts as I build. No point in boring you with all that stuff now, so without further delay, let's build a PC. My philosophy for designing a cool PC is that the look and feel of the PC is based on 2 things, the case and the GPU. These are the stars of the show, really, because they're the main things people notice when they look at a PC. While things like the fancy liquid coolers or cool glowing RGB cables or whatever can definitely be things you use to decorate your PC, the case and the GPU are like set in stone. They're the foundation. So picking a GPU and case to pair together is how I ensure it's going to be a cool looking PC. So today our GPU is the Zotac 3050. I did a video on this GPU, linked below. In that video I talked about how much I love the look of this thing. It looks like a piece of alien technology. It's got a gray and black aesthetic, and since this will be a foundational piece for the look and feel of this build, I thought this would be a perfect time to build in a case that I've had my eye on for a long time. This is the Metallicgear Neo V2. I got this on sale off Amazon for like 65 bucks, which I think is an amazing price for a case of this quality. It's a micro ATX case, which is probably my favorite size of PC case to build in because it's not so big and bulky as a full ATX, but it's not cramped and difficult to work with like lots of ITX builds. And it has some expansion for add-on cards, unlike most ITX machines. I think this is an awesome looking case. Like really, really freaking beautiful. It has tempered glass on both sides of the case, which you don't see very often. And it's full brushed metal on the top and front, and it has these cool patterns around where the power supply goes to stazz up that part of the build, which is usually pretty boring. Let's get everything ready. Since this is a budget build, I'm going to be going with Intel 10th Gen. The 12th Gen is amazing. I did a whole video on that. But I could save about 25% of the CPU and motherboard costs by going with 10th Gen, and since this is a budget build, we gotta keep those costs down without going too low that the performance suffers a lot. This is the ASUS Prime B560MA motherboard. It's micro ATX size to fit in our mATX case, slapping in our i5-10400, which is a really great gaming CPU considering the price it goes for right now. I have a Western Digital Blue Nvme SSD. I'm installing this in the M.2 slot with a built-in heatsink, but I'll tell you right now that this was the wrong choice. This slot only supports PCIe Gen 4, and that's only possible with an 11th Gen CPU, so I had to switch this to the lower slot. And I don't think I filmed that, so I wanted to mention it. And 16 gigabytes of silicon power 3200 megahertz RAM that I chose because it got good reviews and it's gray and black, so it'll match the theme of our build. For the cooler, I'm not going with a 10400 stock cooler. I wanted to try out this Coolermaster i71C. It's a cheap cooler, but it offers good performance for the price from what I've read. The LGA 1200 bracket gets stuck on the back, and then the cooler gets screwed right into that. It has some pre-applied thermal paste too, which is nice. Although my favorite part of building my PCs is applying too much thermal paste, so I'll miss out on that fun. This is an RGB cooler, but I'm not going to be enabling the RGB in the final build after it's all put together because this is a no RGB build. Just plain depressing gray and black. Just kidding. It's not depressing. I hope not, at least. I can't handle any more depression in my life. There we go. Motherboard's all spiff and tidy, ready to go. But before we continue, let's take a cat break. Cat break! Hermione! Hermione, where are you? Hermione, over here! Here, girl! Hermione, come on. I'm filming this for YouTube. Come on, do something fun for the video. No? You don't want to? Are you still mad at me for forgetting to feed you yesterday because I was too busy playing Elden Ring? Okay, that's fair, I guess. Sorry guys, she's not into it. Maybe next time. Let's get our case ready here. We're using an EVGA 500 watt 80 plus bronze power supply, which I bought because it was the cheapest PSU on Newegg that wasn't super ugly or likely to set my house on fire. We have some super cool gray and black PSU cable extenders too. These are optional, obviously, but I decided to splurge on these to get the build looking as good as it can. Getting the case ready, we have to remove the glass side panels and open everything up. We'll get our power supply installed first, since getting the cables in the right place makes everything easier to manage later on. We'll need our 8-pin CPU power, our 24-pin motherboard power, 8-pin PCIe connection for the GPU, and a SATA cable for the storage drive. This case has one of those power supply mounting brackets which make installing the PSU super quick and easy. The case comes with a single 128mm fan pre-installed, so I'm gonna add 2 more 120mm fans that I have left over from other builds. Both of these are NZXT fans, by the way. We're gonna exhaust from one fan out the back and have the intake from the 2 fans at the front. And I guess that means we're done with the case. So let's get the motherboard installed and then get the pluggy parts all plugged into their pluggy places. We'll start with the motherboard, so we need to get that I/O shield in there first. Get this motherboard all screwed in, safe, in its sound, in its new home. And then we'll start plugging in all the other stuff, like the RGB cable for the CPU, which we'll unplug later, but I want to make sure it works first. All the fans, the front USB cable, the front power connection, and LED, HD audio. For our storage drive, which is optional, I guess, I went with a 2TB WD Green SATA hard drive that I found on Facebook Marketplace. Picked up 2 of these at a good price. If you like building PCs, you gotta keep an eye out on your local markets, because these sort of deals on PC parts show up all the time and you gotta be quick to grab them up. Time to do some cable management with my super fabulous zebra skin scissors. This isn't real zebra skin, by the way. It's actually endangered rhino skin. It's just dyed to make it look like zebra skin. Man, look how nice these gray and black cables look. I know it's technically breaking the spirit of a budget build to splurge on unnecessary fancy cables, but they just look so good. They're only like 20 bucks if you get them from AliExpress, and most of the time they won't even catch fire. So definitely go for those extra special builds. Ooh, I'm taking off the PCIe slot covers. You know what that means. GPU time, baby. I freaking love the look of this GPU. It's like my favorite looking GPU of all time. Zotac also make a 3060 and a 3060 Ti and a 3070 version of this same design. I actually ended up carefully removing that serial number sticker with a hairdryer because it looks so tacky on the edge of the GPU right there. I hate when they do that. Oh, there you go. Some of you wanted to know what the back of my head looked like, so there it is. The much anticipated back of my head reveal. Man, I just love those sleeve cables. Way more than I should. They look freaking awesome to me. And that's it, we're freaking done. And we posted on the first try. Alright. In the BIOS, I had to enable XMP on our RAM to let it run at its proper speed of 3200 megahertz, and the BIOS didn't detect the SSD. Like I said earlier, that slot's only for PCIe Gen 4 stuff, so I had to move the SSD to the lower slot. After that, it was detected just fine, and we installed Windows and everything worked great. No problems at all. This was a very enjoyable case to work in, mostly because of the cable management system. They have these grooves and built-in straps to hold everything in its place. It makes cable management so easy. And the other thing I liked about this case is how great it looks. It's easy to make your build look awesome when the case itself looks awesome, you know? There's lots of places to route your messy cables and keep it all neat and tidy looking, and having tempered glass on both sides is a really nice touch that you don't see very often. As for how it performs, I'm not going to show you a ton of games because I already did an entire review and gaming test on this RTX 3050. I'll link that video below. Oh, I did apply a small overclock to the GPU here, by the way. 150 megahertz on the core clock and 1200 megahertz on the memory. That's the best stable clocks I could get this thing to run at. No reason not to overclock your GPU, at least, in my opinion. I'm going to be doing an overclocking tutorial video soon, so get subscribed if you're not already so you don't miss that. But a build video isn't complete unless we see some performance, so let's try out a few games. Here's Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This game does support ray tracing and DLSS, but I didn't enable any of that stuff in this test. This is just the raw GPU performance. Running at 1080p with maxed out ultra settings and TAA anti-aliasing, we got an average of 74 FPS. And if you want to use ray tracing, you can also use DLSS to get the frame rate to stay at around 70 FPS. Here's The Witcher 3, 1080p, maxed out settings, and we're getting 63 FPS average. I think this is a perfect 1080p max settings build. You can also use this kind of configuration to play games at 1440p with medium settings, or even at 4K if you play at low settings and use tools like DLSS for an FPS boost. A bit of CSGO gameplay here. This is running at 1080p. Every setting maxed, and I got an average of 209 FPS. That's amazing, obviously, but I don't know how great that actually is. I know some people who play this game like to play it on like 240 hertz monitors, so I guess they'd have to lower the settings a bit, I guess. Of course, we gotta test GTA 5, our game benchmark standard candle. Running at 1080p with all the settings maxed out, except for the advanced graphics settings like distance scaling and all that stuff. We're getting an average of 135 FPS by the end of this run. That's an amazing frame rate, but honestly, I was kind of expecting more than that. I guess I could lower some of the settings to get it higher. I'm not playing on a 144 hertz monitor or anything, so I have no reason to do that. In Far Cry 5, we ran with 1080p max settings, which I guess is what I do with all the games, now that I think about it. Even after causing some big chaos with a bunch of explosions, I ended up with 91 FPS. Another game we need to play is Fortnite. For the kiddos, I'm running at 1080p with everything set to epic and balanced DLSS. I accidentally set the FPS cap to 120 for some reason, so I can't say what the frame rate average would be, but we didn't dip below 120 even once, so, you know, we're good to go here. Elden Ring, running at 1080p with every setting maxed out. This game has a 60 FPS frame rate cap, unfortunately, and we dropped below 60 a little bit, but not much, and it's hard to say if that would happen if we had an uncapped frame rate. So, you know, we're good here. It runs great on this system at least. Great game too. I'm loving the heck out of it right now. And finally, here's Cyberpunk 2077, running at 1080p with mostly high settings, a few medium settings. I had to turn on DLSS to get an enjoyable frame rate, so we're set to quality DLSS, and we got an average of 68 FPS. And the fact that we're able to run Cyberpunk at 60 plus FPS on a 50 class GPU, albeit with DLSS of course, that's a good sign that even low-end brand new hardware is able to play the most demanding games without needing to go down to 900p medium. I'm happy with this. Well, I'm just so pleased with myself. Look at that freaking build, you guys. This is exactly how I wanted it to turn out. The gray and black metallic look really came together exactly as I wanted it to. And building in the Metallicgear Neo V2 was one of the best build experiences I've ever had. I highly recommend this case, not just because of how it looks, but also how enjoyable it is to work in. And I'm just happy that budget builds are finally back on the menu. The total price of this build was $825, and I think this is a pretty amazing computer for this price. I mean, can you even buy pre-builts with these specs for this price? And even if you can, surely they don't look as awesome as this and have quality components like this. Oh, what about you guys? Are GPU prices semi-reasonable where you live? Are you a fan of budget builds like this? Do you think this is a good value for how good it looks and how well it performs? I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And while you're down there, click the thumbs up button if you like the video, or the thumbs down button if you didn't like it for some reason. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. As always, I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.